meeting, and I want to thank you for attending, hoping that we're going to have a progressive deliberations today. So let me extend a warm welcome to the HOD and the officials from the Department of Co-operative and the City of Tshwane, and also the Auditor General Office is also here. So you're all welcome. So before we start, let me declare this precinct, this venue as the Gauteng Provincial Legislature precinct. So I, Honorable Andisa Musai, I'm the acting chairperson of COCTA Portfolio Committee today, hereby declare that the Southern Sun Pretoria in City of Tshwane is the precinct of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature in terms of Rule 556.2 of the Standing Rules of the Gauteng Legislature, Version 5, Revision 2, read together with Section 2(1) and Section 28 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislature, Act Number 4 of 2004. For the duration of this meeting, this place will be the precinct of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Thus, the standing rules of the legislature will apply and govern all the engagements of today. I want to explain what is the precinct of Parliament and the provincial legislature. The precinct of Parliament is the area of land and every building or part of a building under Parliament's control, including the chambers in which the proceedings of the House are conducted and the galleries and lobbies of the chambers, every part of the building in which the chambers are situated, and every forecourt, yard, garden, enclosure or open space appurtenant thereto. The committee rooms and other meeting places provided or used primarily for Parliament's purposes, and every other building or part of a building provided or used in connection with the proceedings of Parliament while so used. So I just want to confirm if members understand the contents of this rule. All right, I see members are nodding. Thank you very much. Our agenda is flighted on the screen, so we are. Okay. So, yeah, there's a background there. I think we need to, yeah, it's an echo. Is somebody going to assist us with that? It's really disturbing. So I'm going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is apologies, and I'm going to request a mem table to table apologies if there's any.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Acting Chair, honorable members and colleagues. We've received the following apologies. The chairperson is not feeling well. The MEC, who's attending as a special delegate in the NCOP in Cape Town. Member Nyati, who is having the community crisis. Thank you.
Members, are we going to accept those apologies? Okay, thank you very much. So let's go through the confirmation of the agenda. It's no longer flighted, but I think members, you did receive it, it was circulated. I just want to suggest that since the department and the city and the other officials are here, we must just defer the other items to later in the afternoon when we come back from the oversight at the sinkhole. But the rest of the other matters, we continue. But is it you, Major, who's going to take us through the agenda items then? And it's flighted. Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, honorable members and colleagues. The following are agenda items. I'll start with number 5, Chair, because you have already spoken to 1 up to 4. So number 5 on the agenda will be presentation by the Department of COCTA on the fourth quarterly report for the 2024-25 financial year. And then the number 6 will be presentation by the department and city on the growing sinkhole crisis in Centurion. And then we will deliberate and adopt the updated committee term program. And then resolution tracking, petitions, update on the international conference, correspondence, if any, and then date of the next meeting. Thank you, Chair.
May. Members, do you have any inputs on the agenda? If not, can we have a move and a seconder, please?
Thank you, Chair. I move for adoption.
Thank you so much. Is there a seconder?
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you, Member Diaga. So let's swiftly move, members, just so we understand why we are here. We're going to be receiving presentations from the Department of COCTA on the fourth quarterly performance report for Vote 7 for the 2024-25 financial year. They're also going to respond to the committee's questions emanating from the analysis of the fourth quarterly performance report of the department. These analyses will be presented by the committee researcher. The department and City of Tshwane will present to the portfolio committee the status of the sinkholes in Centurion. So honorable members will know that it was reported that almost 63 sinkholes have formed in Littleton Manor in Centurion over the past few years. They're posing serious risk to infrastructure, safety and development. So we are requested the department and the City of Tshwane to come and brief this committee of the status and the mitigating measures that are in place to deal with these sinkholes. After the presentation, we'll then conduct an oversight to view some of these sinkholes, and the department and City of Tshwane will lead us. We'll then receive an update on the preparation of the international conference as stated in the agenda that the committee has identified that we will be attending at the 46th International Association of Economy Energy, and it's going to take place in Paris, France from the 15th of June to the 19th of June 2025. So the next HOD to lead us on the item. Thanks.
Good morning to you, Honourable Chair. Good morning to the Honourable members and all the senior managers in the meeting. Honourable Chair, thank you very much. The department's report will primarily focus on the Q4 performance report. It is both financial and non-financial performance, but under the financial report, we'll go into a little bit of detail on the financial issues, revenue issues, payment of service providers, but then also some of the transfers that we have done during the quarter under review. Chair, from a overall performance perspective, the performance of the department against the APP, the department have achieved 90% of the performance targets. 10% of the targets has not been achieved. And Chair, that is as a result of a variety of internal reasons, both internal but then also budget dependencies. Some of our targets during the year had to be reviewed and it had to be aligned in line with the available budget. So essentially, Chair, that's where we are. Chair, I want to move straight on to where we are in terms of some of the key focus areas in terms of the performance. So if you look on slide 5, Chair, we're just giving you a breakdown of the administrative performance. There was one target not achieved. Under local governance, we had also one target not achieved, and under development planning. And if you look at the report and the financial report, you will clearly see that under development planning, they the program that achieved the least, and that is primarily as a part of the areas of non-performance. We'll just give you a little bit of detail as to the rationale and reasons for the underachievement in that particular area. Whilst the work is still underway, Chair, there were some delays, and that has been addressed, and as part of traditional institutional management, we have achieved all the targets. Chair, as part of the executive summary on the next slide, you will notice throughout some of the performance areas under municipal support, under your stakeholder engagement, that the number of municipalities supported is slightly less than the number of municipalities that we earmarked to support. And that is primarily based on what was available in the budget and how we had to ring fence the support. Chair, at this stage, with the new financial year and the further compulsory cuts in the budget that has been realized, we had to conduct like a risk-based approach to support. And our risks in the department, looking at the support that we need to provide to municipalities, is in the main two municipalities that's a big risk, and that is Merafong and Mfuleni. We do support the other municipalities, Chair, but those two are the biggest risk. When we had a meeting with the AG and when the report was presented on the audit outcomes recently, our focus was that both Mfuleni and Merafong needs to be subjected to interim audits. So whatever comes out of the interim audit, there's still sufficient time to address some of the areas ahead of the regularity audit that will be commencing on the 1st of July. So those were our biggest focus areas. And of course, in terms of capacity development and voter education, work are continuing. We had to take a slight backseat when it comes to public participation. Whilst the team have done some good work in the municipalities, we've also reduced the number of events that we have taken place to ensure that there is alignment with the budget. And Chair, of course, with the cuts in the budget, we'll have to do things more smartly. We'll probably have to consolidate a number of our stakeholder events so that we can get maximum participation, maximum impact, but then also look at municipal venues where you can reduce costs specifically for hotels and conference venues. And that's the focus. And of course, the delivery machinery of viewed in line with the available financial resources that we have. Chair, on slide 7, important to note is the part that deals with infrastructure planning and spatial planning. Infrastructure planning is a serious concern for us. We recently had an engagement, and we want to agree upfront that where municipalities, specifically Mfuleni, Merafong, has serious challenges when it comes to project management, project planning, and project implementation, we need to embark on a 6B process where MISA is assisting with the implementation. But during the week, Chair, as we were starting to roll out Housing Development Agency of Johannesburg, specifically on Alexandra, we had to assess their capacity to see how they can assist the province when it comes to project management and implementation. They are an entity of national government, and we need to see how we can leverage on some of that resources, because for us as a department, returning funds for infrastructure, whereas you have such a huge gap in the delivery of infrastructure, is a serious concern for us. So we want to take timely steps to address those areas. We find with the city of Tshwane, with some of the improvements that they are making, but we are also monitoring that situation, municipality, but then also the other municipalities. Chair, the issue of spatial planning is a big concern to us. The provincial EXCO recently approved and as part of our budget preparation, you need to ensure that spatial targeting are included in the budgets. Hence, the planning team from COCTA forms part of the budget process with the provincial treasury. And when departments do present their budgets, we need to ensure that the areas of focus, the 10 top marginalized areas in Gauteng, they are earmarked for those particular areas. And Chair, in terms of that, that's just as a high level, our performance. We did not want to go into a lot of detail, but the reports were shared with the committee. Chair, if you'll allow me, let me just allow the CFO to briefly talk about the financial performance. Chair, I will come back to conclude on the performance, but then also deal with the questions from the committee, if you will allow, Chair. Thank you very much. CFO.
Thank you very much, HOD, and good morning to members of the committee. With regard to financial, and if you go to the next slide, on slide 11, with regard to compensation, spending was 99%. Transfers, all the transfers of 12 million were made to municipalities. Overall expenditure on goods and services was 541 million against the adjusted budget of 603 million, that is excluding the energy project. And of course, all other expenditure items, as I indicated, we spend 100% on that. And going forward to the next slide is just a detailed breakdown, really, of the expenditure, the performance. In terms of the shifts and environments, the only key, shift that was made was with regard to just a transfer from compensation to goods and services to augment the shortfalls in some of the expenditure items. With regard to the collection of revenue, we collected 1 million against the budget of 416,000, and mainly that's because of the overcollection that we have, experienced, but also for future of some of the benefits that were not claimed by employees. And that's the breakdown of the revenue collection. With regard to payment to service providers, we paid 99% we made 99% of the payments within the 15 days and 100% within the 30 days. And the reason really for the 99% is because of some of the challenges that are within the system due to interdependencies that the department was not able to address. And that really is the overall presentation on the financial performance. Thank you, HOD.
Thank you, CFO, Chairperson, and thank you very much. Chair, the issues of CETA and the payment of service providers, when we had our own in-year monitoring meeting on Tuesday, there was already for the current financial year 2 invoices that was not paid in 15 days. Although we fully meet the 30 days deadline, and that 2 invoices is where we have received confirmation from Treasury that there were challenges. So we're just a bit concerned about that, Chair. It means some of your governance targets in the department you won't be able to achieve. And the effectiveness of a department is measured in accordance with the governance that they are putting in place. So it's a serious problem for us, Chair. We don't want to be measured on 30 days, but we want it to be measured on the deadline that's set by the Premier, which is 15 days. I thought I should just raise that with the members. Chair, in terms of your other areas of non-achievement on the next slide, the one area, Chair, is our employment equity, and that relates to the appointment of women in SMS positions. Chair, it does not mean that as a department we have appointed a lot of males. It constraints that we have lost 2 women that have looked at other alternative employment opportunities, and it's for that reason why our employment for women at SMS level have gone down a bit. And Chair, looking at currently, we have over 48 positions approved by the Provincial Treasury and the Office of the Premier for filling. But Chair, although we got approval for the filling of those, as the accounting officer, I would be reckless by just filling positions, knowing that we are sitting with current deficits in the compensation of employees that the Provincial Treasury is currently addressing. So I have issued a notice in the department that I want to place the positions on hold until the compensation issues are addressed. And Chair, if we exceed compensation and we do not have funding to compensate for that over expenditure, it's already a material finding on your audit. You can lose your clean audit for that. So I take a very cautious approach when it comes to that, Chair. Chair, the next area is the voter education programs that we are doing. We have done all the programs. We probably need to look at how we can save some funds and how we can leverage on economies of scale, consolidating some of the different regions that's not far apart from traveling so that we can still achieve our targets. But that has been reduced as a result of budgets. But the demand is so huge, Chair, for the ABCD approach in municipalities that it's an area that where we create savings within our budget, it's probably an area we need to look at voter education, we need to look at disaster management. And you will see when the report on disaster management comes, Chair, that municipalities have very limited capacity to implement disaster management approaches. Before you start implementing that, they even do not have the technical capacity to assess when there is a disaster so that you can apply for national funding. So those are some of the risks. Chair, we have reported in the previous cycle on the disaster management plans where we had a person that wanted to interdict the process. That has been resolved, but the tender period has then expired. So the process is underway to deal with that. And of course, Chair, the issue of the support from the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency is underway, where we want to bring in various experts to support. And then on slide 23, we're just giving you the transformer replacement program. Whilst we had 60 at the time of reporting, we had 41 replaced. And this is one of the reasons why the energy program is not achieved. The next few slides just go into a little bit of detail, Chair, on the energy program so that you can see. On slide 25, you need to comply with Treasury regulations. If you have not achieved all your financial and non-financial targets, we have applied to Treasury for a rollover of about 61 million. And the reason for that 61 million, Chair, is in 2 or 3 areas we have experienced serious delays when it comes to the installation of transformers and smart meters, and 2 municipalities had to be reallocated. And in the areas where we have experienced delays, specifically Merafong, specifically in the Rand West area, the delays in smart meters was then delayed to the extent that you had to apply for a rollover. Chair, on the transformer replacement on the next slide, it's important to note that we want to ensure that there's alignment between financial and non-financial performance. And some of the areas that we have focused on, you can see that at the time there was only 70% of the budget that was paid because of the other transformers that needs to be installed. And this is the progress. On the smart meter installations, you can see, Chair, whilst we had the full installation, the equipment has been procured, but the reallocation process have taken long. The Merafong Lesedi area was areas that was affected, but then also city of Ekurhuleni and the city of Tshwane. We had to reallocate those so that we can still achieve the budget. When we did the needs analysis for energy, it is by far outweighed the available budget. So to conduct a further needs analysis and to look at where the funds needs to be reallocated, where the greatest risks lies, was not a difficult process because a full analysis has been done. And then, Chair, of course, the solar HIMARS lights has all been installed by the time we have reported, but not all the funds has been paid. And the building lighting in the city, where we have specifically looked at the areas where Pick It Up indicated that it is dark at night, they can't clean at night, and it's also areas that are prone to crime. We have used some of the savings in the complete energy project to assist with the building lights in the different areas. And of course, the access to the buildings where the GPG are in, there were some difficulties gaining access, and some of these projects were delayed. Chair, the only other area where we should have had a rollover was the open cycle gas turbines, and that is on slide 31. We did expect that the installation of the equipment, the installation of the governor control system, The testing of those would take a little bit longer. But because of the delays in the other area that have contributed to some of the underspending only in the energy project and not in other areas, was the primary reasons why there was underspending. So we thought, Chair, we needed to put that up front to the committee so that the committee can see. And as we are standing currently, Chair, the SLA for phase 2 of the energy project, I have signed an extension until the end of June so that the work can be concluded. And we are meeting on a weekly basis, and we are doing inspections on a weekly basis to monitor the implementation of that project. So we thought that, Chair, we are quite at an advanced stage. Chair, the next few slides, we're just sharing with the committee that the process of the regularity audit is underway. The AG has done the planning, the AG has done a lot of other work, a lot of requests for information has been issued, and there's only 2 outstanding. We are happy with the current progress, Chair. 2 things that the AG has already raised with us is the vacancy rate and the outdated organizational structure. Chair, we had to reduce the organizational structure because with the limited budget, you need to align your staffing structure to the budget. In the past, you could have a bigger structure and you can prioritize filling of vacancies. With the current dispensation, the structure that you put forward is a structure that you can afford in terms of your finances. Those are not material, and we have responded to the AG, and there are discussions underway. And then the next few slides, Chair, we're just sharing with you the progress on the implementation of the AG recommendations, just to demonstrate to the committee that we are ready for the audit. Chair, that concludes quarter 4. If you will allow, we can go immediately on to the responses to the questions at a high level so that the committee can note that. Chair, on the questions, the very first question from the committee relates to the employment of females at senior management level. And Chair, we must say that the budget and the availability of funds has hampered us, and we now need to rethink the priority areas that requires filling, and indicating, Chair, that the biggest portion of the budget goes into municipal support, it goes to infrastructure, and if you look at that and the performance of municipalities, you can see that there is corroboration. So it means that should be our focus areas in the municipalities. So Chair, in terms of the vacancies, that's where we are. It's not a problem that we need to attract females in senior management positions, but it's rather the fact that we have not really filled any positions, and although we have priority posts that need to be filled. So we recently, just before the second iteration of the budget by the MEC of Finance, we had further engagements with Treasury, and some of the previous legacy issues that we had with community development workers, the payment of pay progression for a number of years, all of those has been addressed. I think there is only a few staff members, less than about 15, that's outstanding, where we had some internal issues that we need to address. So I think the bulk of the backlog in terms of those has been addressed. Chair, on some of the areas relating to training and empowerment programs, we do have an incubation program, and that's reflected on slide 6. We do have an incubation program that we are dealing for people with disabilities. We also had a program where we have given bursaries to some of the people that we have identified, and about 58 individuals has been trained on the new venture creation program. And of course, it's not a program that the department can do on its own. We work with various stakeholders. One area that we should work more on, Chair, is we recently have signed the agreement and MOU with the public service SETA. We think there is a need for us to engage the local government SETA as well to see how we can get funding to support some of our initiatives as well. Chair, under the areas of investigations in municipalities, we are sharing with you on slide 8 those municipalities that has outstanding investigations. We do use our various ethics committees to engage with municipalities. We also allow municipalities to engage with the MPECs and then they need to report to us. One area that we picked up is investigations are prolonged in municipalities, primarily as a result of capacity constraints. Municipalities, of course, they need to ring fence what they can afford and what they can fill. Whilst they do submit their structures to us for approval, we do caution them. Where municipalities have serious financial constraints, can they focus on the areas that is the biggest risk and not just fill any position in a municipality? Because if you just fill positions, Chair, it means there's two big debtors that will remain outstanding, and that is Eskom and Rainwater. And we've seen the attitude of Eskom and Rainwater. Whilst they are amenable to engagement with us, they do attach the banking accounts of the municipalities, but we are intervening with them directly. So in terms of investigations, the next slide just give you an outline of current status of where the investigations are. But even in Kokta, we have acknowledged that the governance area in Kokta needs to be strengthened so that we support municipalities more, but also follow up on a more regular basis on the status of the investigations. And of course, the Gauteng Integrity Management Framework form the basis of our engagements with municipalities. Chair, the part that deals with public participation, I think I said up front, Chair, that whilst those targets has been achieved, we have to reduce some of the number of engagements due to budgetary constraints, but the requirements in the municipalities are huge. For the advisory, for technical training, but then also capacity building support that we assist municipalities. There is a collaboration with the University of Johannesburg, where various colleagues has been trained, but then also there's some engagements with other various groups as well as we embark on this journey of providing capacity building support to the municipality. And essentially, Chair, some of the support work that we are also providing in the different municipalities are clearly outlined. There is events that's taking place on a regular basis, but of course, we're looking at what's available and how we can support municipalities in that regard. And of course, with both Mfuleni, Midvaal, they have been supported, and the work in that particular areas will then continue. Chair, on the spatial development framework, I've outlined in the first report on Q4 that the spatial development framework has now been approved by the Executive Council. It was tabled in 2022, but the Executive Council felt that we needed to engage more with municipalities, and that has been done. But one of the biggest focus areas that we look at is if the report from Stats SA outlining the poorest wards, if you look at where the budgets are spent, you're not necessarily having a significant portion of the budget going into that poorest wards. And it's for that reason when departments tables their budgets, there is a part that deals with spatial planning. How do you deal with spatial support in municipalities in those particular regions? What's the portion or the proportion of the budget that goes into that areas? And how is that focused on the poorest wards in Gauteng? So some of those areas are key. Chair, the biggest portion of the questions and the responses from us is about the CBD revitalization. Chair, it is now common cause that the President has established the Presidential Working Group, and today and tomorrow the Presidential Working Group is in Gauteng to have a formal strategic planning session to look at how we can to improve. As Kokta, we have established the CBD revitalization structure. Our structure focuses on cleaning, infrastructure, safety and security, but it also focuses on informal trading, taxis and homelessness. Each of the HODs are leading a particular work stream. And as the HOD of Kokta, I chair the overall work stream where all of them are coming together. And as Kokta, we're also leading the cleaning campaigns with the city in the different areas. From all the cleaning campaigns that we have undertaken, Chair, one thing that we have learned from that is that we cannot go 1 week into one area, next week you're going to another area. We need to have a sustained campaign for about 3 weeks in one area, but then once you leave the area, Chair, can you make sure that there is proper bins and proper law enforcement? We've realized that without the proper bins and law enforcement, it literally takes a few days before that area goes to the same state where it was in. And we have done that assessment, we have proof of that. And at some point, if the chair and the members would like to go into a little bit of detail, we can share that. But chair, with the emergence of the presidential working group, we had to restructure our work streams. So the current CBD revitalization work stream that was the overall work stream in the provincial government becomes a sub-work stream of the presidential working group. So all the people I had to retrofit into the presidential work group, they report to the various DGs, there is sub-work streams, and then as sub-work streams, we report to the overall work stream in the president's team. There's different DGs that is leading, and the city of Johannesburg is leading and chairing the work stream on the overall CBD revitalization. It has been a back and forth for the last few weeks, Chair, because we needed to find a proper fit. Do they want us to continue? They don't. And it's for that reason that you have not really seen, Chair, over the last, I would say, 4 weeks, we only had one CBD revitalization campaign. And we ordinarily try to have it every second week, and we wanted to start off by having it every week. So that's one of the reasons why. But we hope to gain traction over the next 2 to 3 weeks once the engagement between us and National is finalized over the next 2 days, because the president has established a structure where we need to report on a monthly basis. Chair, on slide 24, we're just sharing with you that although CBD Johannesburg is the priority, these are the CBDs that has been identified. We have embarked on a campaign this whole week in Mfuleni, where the teams are there. We have borrowed equipment from other municipalities to assist. We even brought in our sister departments from the DID to even come and assist. But we don't want to finish Johannesburg and then start with the others. We're asking the municipalities to establish the CBD revitalization structures in the municipalities so that we can, on a gradual basis, work with them to start working in their municipalities and in their CBDs, Chair. So that's essentially where we are. So the overall PMO in Kokta will remain. We'll still coordinate, but we will now form part of the overall presidential work stream. And then, Chair, on slide 27 onwards, we're just highlighting some of the timeframes. The timeframes is a bit ambitious if you're not going to look at the issues beyond cleaning, Chair, because we have learned you clean Friday afternoon, the places look beautiful. By Sunday, myself and the team, we're doing an inspection in the areas. You can clearly see if you don't improve CCTV surveillance, law enforcement in the areas, and do proper awareness training and bring in the private sector on board, you're not going to achieve the desired results. I hope that the agreement that I've signed with the Church of Scientology that assisted during COVID will bring much needed relief. The only thing that we are waiting for now is we want to identify a building in the CBD of Joburg that is not used so that we, with the Church of Scientology, can use it to bring in the various volunteers that we can deploy within a 5-kilometer radius to the city and other areas. Chair, that concludes the responses, and I think just the last part is just to share with you what is the current performance on MIG funding on slide 32, and as I've outlined in the Q4 report, Chair, infrastructure, municipal support, disaster management, and ensuring that we improve those municipalities at risk is the primary focus of the department. Chair, with your indulgence, I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, HOD, for the presentations. I want to take this opportunity to ask members of, honorable members, for your inputs and also questions and comments. See Member Msimang, Member Diakhar, Member Rasilingwani, Member Dilebo Rifan. Okay, and then Member Mkhobe, Member Masoling, Member Machen. All right, in that order.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning to colleagues. I listened to HOD and to the CFO, and at the risk of sounding like a broken record, Chair, I've raised this a number of times before, that spending and spending and spending and not monitoring and not actually then weighing what is the impact of your expenditure is something that government needs to come and bring to an end. We reported here that we've spent about 94%. Good. But if you were to then take what the Auditor General has to say and break it down, you realize that our municipalities are more in trouble now than they've ever been. So the auditor raises 5 things. And these are the issues of concern. He speaks about poor debt collection, 1. Speaks about inefficiency in budgeting. Speaks about high financial losses. Speaks about project delivery failures. Speaks about limited preventative maintenance. Now, I can go to any municipality that you choose. These things will continue even in the year to come. The HOD speaks about Mfuleni. I don't know why, HOD, Mfuleni is still receiving the greatest of attention, but year in, year out, Mfuleni becomes the worst municipality in terms of all these things that I've mentioned. And I want to then question, what is actually COCTA doing? Because we're spending money, but the impact of the intervention is actually not there. It's actually now negative. And these are some of the things that we now need to then ask. When we're spending money and when we're looking at these, when we're looking at all these programs, are the programs really delivering on what they're supposed to be delivering? Are we able to then go and measure the impact, not just spending the money, but go and measure the impact of what we're doing? Now, the Auditor General continues and talks about the call of action, and then one of the things that she raises is that there's governance failures. There's issues around weak institutional capability. Talks about lack of accountability. Now, municipalities right now, people in Rand West are getting less water. The reason why they're getting less water is because they've been throttled down. They've been throttled down by rainwater because rainwater hasn't been receiving money from the municipality. And the worst part is that the most affected are the people that are paying in high tax areas. So the municipality now is going into some kind of a vicious circle where those people that are paying the highest in terms of rates and taxes are the ones that are impacted the most, who are receiving even less, which means that the municipality will even collect less from them, which means that the cycle is going to continue. Now, again, I ask, what is COCTA doing? And there's something that bothers me, Chairperson. A kilometer from here, we have the Tshwane council chambers. A kilometer from where we're sitting. How much are we paying for this venue? Did people have to come and sleep here? And yet we're talking about cost containment measures. We could have used that venue free of charge. People had to sleep here. People had to be accommodated here, and we now still here using this venue that we are going to pay, I don't know how many thousands that we're going to pay. Yet we're talking about government buildings that are there and probably now standing empty. Today there's no council meeting. But these are the kind of things that we need to be talking about, the cost containment. But here's another thing. So the Auditor General speaks also about the professionalizing of staff at a municipal level. When was the last time COCTA really did a proper audit of what is there at a municipal level? To look at whether we do have people that are qualified to do the job so that we know that, in terms of the capacity, at least there is, a move in the right direction. When was the last time that the COCTA really engaged with municipalities and did a proper, assessment, the skills audit assessment? If we were to ask for that report, will we get that report? And will we be able to then have an understanding of where the vacancies are and what can be done? I can tell you right now, HOD, I was engaging with the MMC in Lesedi. The whole municipality have not even an engineer, has a technician, a second tier technician, a whole municipality. And we wonder why infrastructure cannot be fixed when it breaks down or it takes forever for people to get to it. And then I ask again, what is COGTA doing? Lastly, Chair, we talk about the promotion of, or we want to have clean government. There's a document that was shared with me that talks about 23 billion rand in Joburg for unauthorized and fruitless expenditure. 23 billion. Now, nobody's actually then taken to task on these things. People are continuing with their job as if it's normal. And nobody's actually even raising the question in terms of who are the officials that are responsible, what action is actually then being taken. And I think COGTA needs to then also come and look and play its actual role here of oversight, because if you then look into the report, the Auditor General concludes by blaming the legislatures for failing to play an oversight role in terms of what municipalities are doing. So again, I'm going to ask, we're spending money, we're talking about 94% expenditure, great, all good and well, but what is the impact? And what are we doing about this going forward, Chair? That's the answers that I would like to get. Thanks.
Can I continue, ma'am? Thank you. First of all, just on the question of infrastructure planning, we should be including Lesedi there as well, because Lesedi is also being throttled. They're also not paying their accounts. They've also not been honoring their agreement with Rand Water. On CapEx spending, when we talk about CapEx spending and we say that municipalities are spending 10%, 29%, 35% of CapEx, I want to know whether that 25% of what? 25% of the overall budget or 25% of the CapEx portion being spent on new infrastructure. And if it is 25 or 35% of the actual CapEx portion, because I can assure you that's probably what it is, then that means we will never catch up with the backlogs. Never. 25% of a 9 billion rand CapEx budget is not sufficient, it's not enough. And it's not even enough for Joburg Water in the case of Johannesburg, let alone Joburg Water and City Power. And that against a budget of almost 90 billion. That means it's only 10% of their budget goes towards actual infrastructure spending. New infrastructure and infrastructure upgrade is absolutely critical in these municipalities. So we need to be more clear on how and what we are saying or reporting on. I've also been, and I have discussed this with Mr. Barkley before, and that is we need to be far more strict in our role in oversight from COGTA in how municipalities budget. We know that the equitable share and MIG funding goes into the general kitty of the municipalities. And instead of that equitable share going towards water or electricity, it goes towards funding unmandated services, building a clinic, building a sports field, which is nice to have if you have water and electricity. But if you don't have water and electricity, what is the use of a new recreation center? Can't access them. So I think it is very critical that we do have a far more stricter oversight, and that we have and I want to appeal to you, Chair, that we, and also to Mr. Barkley, that we actually get the municipalities to the committee to account for how equitable share is spent and how MIG funding is being spent. Because right now, I don't believe it is going where it should be going. If that was the case, we would not be having a situation in Merafong where they cannot even honor the agreement that they had. And they, as my colleague already said, they're cutting off residents who are paying, and as a result, residents who cannot pay and cannot afford will also not be getting any water in the future if you do not have any water to distribute. On the inner cities revitalization programs, it's music to my ears. I love the sound of that. But I wonder to what extent we are utilizing the UDZ tax incentive. That's the Urban Development Zone tax incentive that was first promulgated, I think it was February 2002, by the then Minister of Finance, Mr. Manuel. That UDZ tax incentive will go a long way in getting inner city revitalization from the side of property owners. And if it's administered correctly, and if we actually give property owners the benefit and promote the benefit of the UDZ, it will really go a long way to help us in revitalizing inner cities, even if it means that in some cases the borders of the urban development zones needs to be extended. Yesterday, I visited the Mukhali, and I visited one of the buildings there on 48 Blumenstein Road in Mukhali. It's an old nurses' barracks and a previous army barracks or army officers of some sort. It's a condemned building belonging to DID. Now, I know it's not really part of this portfolio, but at the end of the day, it is part of COCTA and oversight, where a building is condemned, but the province is paying security to look after a building that's condemned, that should be closed. No water, no electricity. Oh, there's water, but no electricity. People are living there in the most horrific conditions. It's a city, a provincial facility that's actually condemned. And we still have people living there because our departments, our sister departments, are not taking responsibility for a condemned building. And this is not news. The MEC is fully aware of this since 2018, and nothing has been done about that. Yeah, so that's just my inputs, and I really hope that we can have the just before we go. Before I conclude, what we need to see from the department, we urgently need a presentation on the action plans for the Presidential Working Committee, specifically on water and electricity. That's my big bugbear. So if we can have a presentation on the action plan for water and electricity from the Presidential Working Committee, as well as the terms of reference, and what the power of the Presidential Working Committee will be to enforce their findings, etc. So if we can see that, it will also really go a long way to assist us and for us to assist the municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Rasilingwan.
Chairperson, I've been covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to move to the site. Member Mkhore.
No, thank you so much, Chair. I think mine is on the responses to questions. I think around CBD revitalization. And I think the department speaks clearly that part of the things that they will focus on, it's cleaning, maintenance, safety, and security. They will focus on informal traders and so on. But I'm not hearing the department coming out strongly on hijacked buildings. And or what could be the plan there. And then when you look at the city of Johannesburg, for instance, or here where we are just next to Sunnyside. And of course, these cities, of course, have got a lot of buildings that are for student accommodation, and some of them are hijacked. But there's a lot of activities here. that are happening, whether you speak about kidnappings, drug activities, and all that. And these buildings that are hijacked, we're not doing anything on, or have a focused project plan on how to deal with these particular issues. And of course, I don't think we are in charge anymore in these cities. If you look at Joburg, almost the whole of Joburg, whether it's Hillbrow, Braamfontein, everywhere else, you've got a high concentrated number of hijacked buildings and wrong activities are happening here. And I think we need to come out strong on these particular issues. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Masole.
Thank you very much, Chair. And please excuse my voice. I'm recovering from flu. Chair, mine is on the underachievement of this 10%. We should all agree. Actually, Member Msimang has took my words, because I was going to say we hear this year in, year out. It mostly sounds like an old record, that the underachievement is due to the vacant positions of senior management, which are not filled. And you ask yourself a question: why are these positions not filled? Because over and over you'll have this underachievement due to these positions. And what the department is not telling us is they've of all these senior posts, I did not count them, but there are, I think, around 40 or 50. Only 3 has been advertised. Only 3 positions have been advertised. And when are they going to advertise these other ones? When are they going to be filled? And on the voter education, I just want to find out from the department, you only had 1 session that you conducted successfully, but you are not telling us the juice of it. We want to know, where did you have it and when? And did you achieve any positive outcome, or did you just rubber stamp as usual? Because we have so many unregistered voters in Gauteng that those who were there, those who attended the session could register online immediately on the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Maheni. Maybe just before I give to the HOD, I also wanted maybe just to comment. And yeah, thank the department for the presentation, really. I think on my side, I wanted to understand what would be the, if the department has also assessed the impact of reducing, public participation, and maybe if there are any measures that you will also put in place to try and cover that, considering that in terms of public participation, the law also requires that you do that. Secondly, we went as a portfolio committee of finance at Mirafong, and I think it also impacts the Department of COGTA, the issues of sinkholes. So what they were raising there is that there is no budget to come up with interventions. And I just want to know, since the oversight that you had done as a department to the sinkholes in Mirafong, what has been done and what are the plans to intervene on the matter? And whether, with the Premier who has announced, the 13 priorities or challenges in terms of the budget, whether there is a budget put aside, because the sinkholes are part of that. Now, we also have discovered when we going around with SCOPA, but when we interact with these municipalities, that the MPEG committees are not functioning. And I think it's important that we are also giving that report on which ones are not functioning, because you mentioned there's an issue of capacity in terms of those committees. But what are the plans? Are they going to be skilled? Because it is a requirement that those committees need to sit, they need to also investigate, because it's of no use that in Mfuleni, I know that there are officials that have been suspended, but if there's not going to be any investigations or any thing done, and those disciplinary hearings are not taking place, or whatever hearings in terms of the reports that are in the MPEG, then it's of no use. Now, on the issue of the buildings, I would also be interested, because I think the department did come to this committee and told us that the building that the department was also occupying, they were going to move to another building, whether that has happened, and also whether we are saving on the leasing of buildings with different departments, if that is done. And also, I'm just curious to know, in the area of land use management, you have these MPTs that are established in the municipalities. Whether do you get a lot of court litigations in that area, and if there's an issue of capacity as well in there. I also want to move to the questions that were posed by the honorable members, maybe just to emphasize that I think maybe then it's important that we do get, in as much as you're going to respond HOD, we do get a report on the impact, of your expenditure. 94%, but whether does it impact on service delivery, as members have also alluded. The second one would also be the audit skills report per municipalities, if those officials are really, they really have the right skills that are occupying those positions. And yes, Member Diacher is also requesting, and I think it's important, the action plans that he has requested with regards to water and electricity for the Presidential Working Committee. That should also be a report. I'm saying this so that maybe our officers are also taking note that this is what the committee would want to have as a formal report. The last one will be on the hijacked buildings. So I'll hand over to you, HOD.
Chair, thank you very much, and thank you very much to all the members for the reports and all the inputs. Chair, we can certainly say that a number of these things were raised by the committee in the past. There is parts where some improvement has been demonstrated. There is parts that will just take a little bit longer. It makes me think what I said to the Premier when the Premier called in HODs about 2 weeks ago to come and account to him on some of the areas. And the Premier was saying to me that he heard some good feedback about some of the work that we are doing in municipalities. How do I account for some of the improvements? And my answer to the Premier was point blank that, Premier, yes, I'm currently happy with the work that we are doing. If I can get more funds to deal with municipal support, specifically focusing on improved audit outcomes and service delivery, it will be good. But the capacity in the municipalities to oversee the work beyond COCTA's intervention is a problem. And I said to the Premier, it's going to take a little bit longer than anticipated. So I said to him, my focus is now changing to make sure that I bring the 2 municipalities that is at risk to a stage where the communities are happy with service delivery. And it's also going to take time. So some of these areas have been raised, Chair, and Of course, the budget is structured into your administration, but also your core components. And your administration is the smallest component because that is to keep the department going. And all the other funds is then earmarked for programs within municipalities, programs to support municipalities. And Chair, the issue of irregular expenditure, wasteful and fruitless expenditure is high on the agenda of the AG. And to deal with that and to deal with the condonement of that through an impact, there must be an investigation and there must be consequence management. And those are the two areas that is a serious challenge in municipalities. And it's an area that COCTA is constantly monitoring. But with a lack of capacity, it's a serious problem. COCTA has appointed in the past a few technical experts in legal to address the issues of legal matters, disciplinary matters, labor matters. But what you find, Chair, is that as soon as the people leave, the municipality don't continue. Whether we have developed standard operating procedures, policy manuals, and so on, the municipality just don't continue with it. So it means that you should literally be on the premises of the municipality all the time to do that. It's for that reason when we presented our very first report, towards the end, I said that COCTA needs to review its delivery machinery. Should I really think about a consultant again to look at legal and labor expertise, a contract that will expire? Shouldn't I insource that capacity in COCTA? So if I know Merafong and Mfuleni has a problem, I leave that capacity until that problem is solved in that particular municipality. And that is the different approach that COCTA is taking. Chair, I can comfortably say we have not conducted a skills audit in the municipalities at this stage. Some of those was done years ago. And it's probably an area, and we'll take the guidance from the committee that it's something that we should look at. We'll obviously first, before we reinvent the wheel, we'll check with municipalities what they have done. We'll check the skills and the alignment thereof to your organizational structure and what has been brought in. So the team can start with it. But our challenge is to make sure that with the onerous provisions that we also impose on them is to professionalize the municipality. But I also said when the Premier calls us that if I look at the number of legislature questions that I received from COCTA's performance, out of, I think, more than 50 that I received, on COCTA performance, I received about 3 or 4. 98% of the questions relates to the performance of municipalities, the skills in municipalities, infrastructure delivery, and so on. Hence, we are putting interventions in that area. Chair, it will be useful to bring to you a report separately on water-related issues. The work, when we established the IGR on water, we thought the IGR should only dealing with issues of sustainability of water supply, but then also look at the state of readiness of municipalities to receive the water from the Lesotho Islands Water Project that will be coming in 2028. It has gone beyond that now. We now even use the structure with Lesedi. Lesedi was the last one that we have used, where they had challenges with rainwater before they reduce the capacity. We engage them, we bring a proposal to rainwater, we engage, and we restore, provided that they pay. Merafong was supposed to be the very first municipality. The MEC tried to intervene on 4 occasions. On all occasions, they have said that they are not available. So, Chair, my argument is, if you know you have a challenge, the MEC called the chairperson of rainwater to say, give us an opportunity to engage with you first. And the municipality don't come on board. Chair, this is a problem. So the MEC is engaging directly with the executive mayor in that area so that we can support them. The MEC have gone into the different municipalities to engage with the executive mayors and with the MMCs on this. But now the IGR structure on water is not only dealing with the water issues, the challenges and so on. We even go beyond to say, this SPV that we need to establish in Mfuleni, shouldn't we get the Minister of Finance and the Minister of COCTA to fast-track that establishment? If it's working and it creates revenue, We want to replicate the model in all the other municipalities. That will be a big milestone for us, Chair. But we need the municipal support. You need the matters taking through council, and we need to have some of those decisions been made. But Chair, I can safely say that if I look at the number of queries or the number of requests that I receive from a municipality to appoint a person to act in a position and to appoint a person substantively once a recruitment process has been done, 95% of those are non-compliant. And 95% of non-compliance means that either the people does not have the necessary skills and qualifications, and so on. I have no problem with a municipality if they want to attract a candidate. The regulations say you must appoint at the commencing scale of the upper limits. I have no problem if the municipality will say, CFOs is a problem. I want to appoint this person at midpoint. Here is the motivation. I will not even hesitate to support that motivation to the minister, provided that it's the right people and the right skills. But there must be a motivation for that. So it just shows you some of the challenges when it comes to the professionalization in areas. When the standard operating procedures has been developed, you're supposed to automatically see a reduction on wasteful and fruitless expenditure. But if the AG uses the word, there is a lack of governance, I immediately know I would see an increase in wasteful and fruitless expenditure. I would see an increase in non-compliance with supply chain management. And that should be an extremely big focus in our area going forward. But we believe that in some areas there is just a breakdown of governance. MPECs are being trained, MPECs are there. When we do the status report on municipalities, MPECs are functioning. But what you must look at is, what are those MPECs discussing in the meetings? I would want to see the first item on the agenda is, what is the MPEC strategy to reduce irregular, wasteful and fruitless expenditure? And how do they apply consequence management proactively so that you can set the tone in the municipality? If you do not comply to good governance, these are the consequences. But you need to go into deeper, Chair, to understand what are some of those challenges. Chair, the percentage of spending on infrastructure is the percentage of your CapEx spending that has not been spent, as correctly indicated by Member De Jager. And yes, infrastructure delivery must improve. Municipalities always have a pushback when we want to implement Section 6B and when we want to bring in other agencies. They often say that let's keep the procurement inside, but the delivery with another group. But that can't happen, Chair. You need to include the entire value chain to the agency so that they can run with the project. And we can hold that particular agency accountable. And we assess the capacity of that agency before they are being appointed. Chair, the issue of the relationship between the budget, the value add, and so on, is something that we probably need to look at a bit more closely. Not that we have not done it, but you must continuously, as a department and as a municipality, assess yourself and check that money has been spent on the right areas and on the areas that will create the necessary impact for that particular municipality and to the benefit of the citizens. And in so far as that is concerned, we feel that municipalities, and that's where our biggest challenge is, we need to assess their budget against what their projected revenue is. And you just need to check what did the municipality collect in the past and what do they say is their collection rate now to make sure that they get to a funding budget. There is no way that you can say you have collected 60%, you plan to have a funded budget and you're going to collect 95%. There is no way that a community will pay for services if you have not started to deliver services and then demonstrate your ability to do that. We have the same now with Mfuleni. We are all in Mfuleni to work. The first point of call that the officials say is, HOD, the tariff structure is not correct. We're taking a matter to council to increase the tariffs. I said, that's the most wrong thing to do. There is no way that you can do that without making sure that waste is now collected at least every second week as opposed to monthly, and you demonstrate that the area can be clean and the basic services are rendered, then only you can do that. Whilst we know that tariffs is a problem, our argument is also, can we demonstrate that services can be delivered before you go into improving rates and taxes, improving or increasing other services. Chair, insofar as your buildings are concerned, the city of Joburg do have the strategy to deal with hijacked buildings. We have asked all municipalities to provide us with their plans to deal with all the buildings that's unoccupied in their areas. There is a huge demand for student accommodation. There is a huge demand from the universities for those. So they need to look at other value-added focus areas to improve that. And Chair, we would like to come back to the portfolio committee, look at hijacked buildings, look at the entire Gauteng per municipality and what's the strategy. And let's take the Joburg strategy, for instance, and look at that and how we can see if we can replicate it. Tshwane has an excellent strategy now that they have presented to us on revenue generation. What we do in our IGR structures is those municipalities that are doing well, like the Midvales, the city of Tshwane with their revenue management strategy, to present it so that other municipalities can learn. And if you have seen the increase in the collection rate, you can see that these are paying off. And you need to start with the basics. Is your data cleansed when it comes to the billing? If your data is not cleansed, you cannot collect revenue. It's our starting point when we look at revenue enhancement strategies. Once we've cleansed the data, once we assist them, we identify what's the possible income that can be generated. It stops when COCTA is leaving. That is a serious problem when it comes to sustainability, but then also continuity. Chair, on the CBD revitalization, we're happy to bring back a report on the purpose of the presidential working group, what they're going to do, how we as departments are fitting in. We said we need to continue, but we included governance and financial management as part of the presidential working group, whereas the governance and financial management forms part of the local government turnaround strategy in the province. So that's the only difference when it comes to that. Chair, if you look at G13, if you look at the relationship with budgets in municipalities, you can clearly see there's a disjuncture. We are hoping to put a system in place to bring municipalities closer to the province when it comes to overall reporting. So by the time we report as Gauteng, we should have an integrated report that comprises of municipalities in Gauteng as a whole, that we bring all G13 in together. So at some point, Chair, I would say towards Q2, we would be happy to present an overall report to the portfolio committee on areas of focus in terms of that. Chair, under the building for COCTA, I have recently signed the lease agreement between myself and the DID with the landlord. The procurement process has been done. As it is currently, the various inspections are taking place. They're making some minor changes to the building, and COCTA, we should get our office building. We should move in, I think, from the 1st of August, anytime afterwards. We should move in, and with that, we should also then address some of the audit queries that deals with staffing issues, records management, and so on, although it is not material. Chair, land use management and the structures that's in municipalities. If you look at the relationship between how land, the management, the disposal of land is managed in municipalities against the spatial development framework, the approval of plans, there's a complete disjunction. The number of requests for approval of plans, service delivery plans by departments to embark on infrastructure delivery is completely low. And that means there is a lack of capacity or a lack of understanding. But then there's also a challenge in the provincial government. There's certain spatial planning initiatives that you must embark upon or comply with before you can submit plans for approval. And I've noticed the MEC has recently established the infrastructure work stream, where not only the Department of Infrastructure Development and COCTA are part of, but also the municipal planning officials, so that we can directly engage in the problems relating to approvals so that we can fast track the buildings. Chair, the issue of public participation, Chair, the demand are just huge. The report recently that we had talked about Ekurhuleni, but in the past we have also identified various other regions where work has been done in terms of voter education, training, capacity building and awareness. But one thing that we've also noticed is, regardless of the number of public participation events that you do, regardless of how you train the municipal officials, it does not automatically culminate an increase in a voter turnout. I think the voter turnout is dependent on what is happening at that point in time. If there is a major service delivery issue that is happening in a specific area, the first thing is we've lost trust in government, we've lost trust in the ability of government to govern, and then it affects your voter turnout. We have seen how that happens, but that work is continuing. Chair, I can also invite, just will you allow, maybe check if any of the colleagues in Kokta want to respond. I see they're sitting at the back. I don't know, the voter education team, anybody, they can respond if they want to. Are you covered? Yeah, it's maybe the portfolio committee should let them sit at the front so that they can respond. But
Thank you very much. Yes, members, you can do a follow-ups.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. My follow-up question is with regards to the renting of the Kokta building that the HOD has since signed. The MEC recently revealed that Gauteng Province has 41 buildings that belongs to us, and obviously we've got 29 in the city of Johannesburg and 12 in Tshwane. So my follow-up to the HOD is, why are we not utilizing any of those buildings? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is really a comment, but it's a demonstration that I want to make. And this is with regard to both Ekurhuleni, to Lesedi and Merafong. But Merafong gets their allocation for water 75 megaliters of water per day. That's 75 million liters of water a day. They're being throttled by 20%. So of that 75, they're only getting 61 million liters of water a day. Here's the scary thing about that. Of the 61 million liters of water for the entire municipality per day, they lose more than 50%. Now, on a very good day, say they're only losing 50% of the water. Merafong needs 75 megaliters of water per day, but they end up with only 30 million liters of water. If this is 75 million liters of water, then they end up with less than half of this bottle. That's what they get. And that's the stark reality of what we're facing. And now the worst thing about that is the municipality is still expected to pay for the 61 megaliters of water. And if they're not receiving their equitable share for water, there is absolutely no way that they can do or service their debt. And I think that is just, I want to leave you with that picture because that is the reality. And now you also, because of the way you apply the little water that comes in or distributed, you are even losing more of your rate, of your income, than what you would have done. Thank you.
Yes, Member Msima.
Chair, thank you very much. I honestly must commend the HOD for the honest answers that is given. But I'm shocked that at this point in time, we don't know what we have in municipalities in terms of the skills. Now, you cannot diagnose something and fix it if you don't know what's the problem. You will not be able to really say this is the kind of medication that the patient needs if you don't know really what is happening there. And that's exactly what is happening here, HOD. Not saying to you, but I'm saying this is something year in, year out. I make it a habit of getting the reports from the Auditor General and going through them and seeing what has been the improve, seeing what is the regression year in and year out. And I can tell you right now, we're having a huge regression, especially around issues of what I would call the engineering services, project management. There's serious issues around whether you're talking water, and when I talk engineering, I'm talking whether you're talking water, whether you're talking roads, and then also buildings and all of that, and project management as well. There is a growing gap and a growing need, and municipalities are more and more becoming inefficient in dealing with this. But actually, you speak of something about around the issues of when you go and clean. I was once a mayor in this town. I can tell you right now, you go and clean. In the CBD, you go and clean at 9 o'clock in the evening. I used to go and help the teams. Tomorrow after 9 o'clock, after the rush in the morning, the CBD is filthy again. The CBD is filthy again. Here's the problem. The problem is that there is no appetite from municipalities to deal with issues of bylaws. Where people are working, where people are selling, where people taxis are operating, and the environment around that. So you can come and do a cleanup. Once in a while you show up in overalls, the MEC is there, nice photos and all of that. Until such time as we're able to then deal with the issues of bylaws. Until we're able to then say, you cannot trade here. I mean, somebody comes and sells milli-milli, and I'm not saying that informal traders must not exist, but they should exist in the space that is controlled. You can't come and sell millis and then take off the what do you call it, the cover there, and then just there, you just pile it up there, right? So how do we deal with that? How do you then deal with the issues of taxis as well, turning certain areas into, I nearly said something I shouldn't be saying here. But you have the lack of control and the lack of bylaw enforcement that is taking place in these areas. So perhaps what I'm asking you to do, let's look at what the issues around the skills is, and I've spoken to that. Let's look at around the issues of bylaw and bylaw enforcement and who the enforcers are. Because municipalities are supposed to have actually inspectors that are able to then assist with bylaw enforcement. And then if you don't have that, that's something that they need to then look at. Because it's not going to help to then have a vicious cycle of, I'm cleaning the next minute, the next hour, something else is, gone back to the way it was. Then we're not doing anything. Actually, what we're doing is wasting resources, because those resources cannot be permanently be placed there, but we need to be doing, other things with the limited resources that we do have. So maybe I'm asking you, let's look at the issues of skills, as I mentioned. Let's look at the issue of bylaw and whether these bylaws are being enforced and by who these bylaws are enforced. And maybe we'll start to make some headways in that space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Msimang. Also just wanted to add HOD. I think on what Member Msimang has just said now on the cleanliness and especially in the townships. I spend maybe 3 days in a week in Sebokeng. The place is very, very dirty. And my observation is that there was an EPWP program that was implemented by the municipality. It was Sidibeng, I think the province and national was funding that, but ever since that project has stopped. Maybe it's something that the department needs to just monitor and find out what happened to that, because it was the place township was very clean when you had that project. Although yes, I know that obviously they might not have funds to pay for people who are working there, but I think it was one of the projects that was very successful. Secondly, the issue of transformers, I think, around Sebokeng, and I did mention it the last time we met. Every day for 2 hours, the people of Sebokeng are without electricity. And I am really wondering what is happening there and what are the issues and why it's not being attended to. So I'm just raising that you should know that currently they are experiencing that. Thanks. You can respond.
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, let me start with a question on the office building. Chair, as a department, whichever premises we occupy, if it's not habitable, we, on an annual basis, we provide what we say as a user requirements documentation. It's a document that's given to us by the DID, and that particular document is the document that you submit. So DID has a collection of which departments are housed, and which departments are housed in different areas. Like Kokta is occupying a small space in 30 Simmons Street, the building where the Office of the Premier left because the building was not structurally sound. We have Diagonal Street, we have 124 Main Street, where it's only the HOD's office and the MEC's office. You then have the Provincial Disaster Management Center. And you can't house too many people other than your Provincial Disaster Management team because it needs to comply with certain pieces of legislation. So then the department would then consider giving us one building because that was our requirements. Can we have one building based on our requirements? Then you indicate your requirements. The authority to decide which buildings is suitable for their department is vested with the DID. They've decided to go out on tender. We have appointed one of our members as the bid evaluation committee. They have asked it. It's standard from the line function department, and they follow the process. Kokta is not supposed to be involved in determining where, and once the BAC makes its outcome and approved, then Kokta gets informed. But as part of their assessment, they do look at the buildings that's currently available. But their decision is entirely theirs, Chair, to decide. Chair, Member Msimanga is absolutely correct. We have seen that CBD cleaning, waste management, bylaws are going hand in hand. If you cannot maintain waste management, what do you want the people to do with their day-to-day waste if you do not have a system? Chair, that is one of my biggest concerns that I have with the Mfuleni team. We are running this massive campaign this week. I have the provincial HODs already complaining that it looks to me that we are now reporting to Kokta, and then jokingly I would say yes, because I convene provincial HODs and I would say this is the assessment of Mfuleni, Merafong, these areas. Tell me what is your plan as we're going into that area. So the current issue is if you don't have a sustainable plan for waste management and bylaw enforcement, it's a challenge. So our Tuesday engagements focus on bylaw enforcement as well, but just looking at when you had the foodborne illnesses that have emerged, and you look at a number of environmental health practitioners that should be in municipalities, it's almost left with about 2% of capacity, about one person that needs to focus on the entire municipality in terms of enforcement. So it's an area that needs to be strengthened. Chair, the issue of staffing in the municipalities is a serious problem. I do not have authority to compel a municipality to report on anything other than a Section 56 employee. That's those officials that's directly accountable to the municipal manager himself. So they proceed on a basis that they see fit. Despite us advising them that you need to fill in line with your available financial resources so that you can pay your liabilities, you receive various comments from councillors and letters to say that despite the advice, this municipality and the MM has continued following this. I write to the MM, I get details. MM would say that they got a directive from council. So those are the things that you are struggling. But Chair, yes, I think let's see how we can look at the skills audit situation and see what is happening. But I just looked at, Chair, from the perspective that if you want to create trust in an organization or the community, there must be a demonstration that your governance are in order. Although governance does not directly culminate in service delivery, but it at least gives the community the sense that, hey, listen, what we are paying for is at least spent prudently It might not be in our area, but at least you can have accountability for that. So it's an area that we should look at. Chair, we're going to take a look at the areas of Sebokeng in terms of the transformers, and then we can also provide you with a report. That's also another area, Chair. The big energy challenges that we have in Gauteng, if the economy increases by a further 1%, your demand for energy automatically increases. And I'm not so sure that with the current plans underway, that we are able to address that. So and if you want to improve the economy, you should have the enablers such as energy to ensure that the economy can grow. But it's an important area, Chair. It is independent work that we have done with municipalities in addition to the funding that we have provided. And we would also like to share that with you. But there were work done in Sebokeng, there were work done in all the municipalities. But the demands, looking at the demands when the assessment was done, you would need about, just in 1 year, almost about 3.2 billion to address the basic issues of energy, transformers, smart meters in municipalities. And as Member De Jager has said quite correctly, he is a bit economical when he said 50%, but the losses are bigger than that. So if we can successfully implement the performance-based contracting in the various municipalities, where the service providers focus on restoring pipes, improving those, we reduce leakages and revenue increases as a result of those. You know, they are paid for the performance that has been done. That will be good because there won't be any money outlaid right from the onset. But it's an area of focus, Chair. So, Chair, thank you very much. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, HOD. Yeah, thank you for the responses, HOD, and thanks for the presentation. I think maybe if it could give you comfort, was it yesterday with the Finance Portfolio Committee, we met with Rand West. And I think in the next quarter, maybe they might be reporting that they have a surplus, and they've also adopted a funded budget. So maybe something that will be benchmarked, if it's true, to other municipalities. So let's note the presentation, members. I think we had a lengthy discussion there, but it was needed. So we're going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is item 7, receive a presentation by the Department of COGTA and the City of Tshwane on the growing sinkhole crisis in Centurion. And I guess the HOD will be leading them before they present.
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, we have, as the committee directed, the City of Tshwane is here, the head of the disaster management is here. And Chair, I can say when this growing problem of sinkholes have emerged, both COGTA, both the municipality and with some of the professionals in the DID have looked at the sinkholes, started to do some situational analysis and some preliminary assessment. Even the City of Tshwane have done that. And Chair, they would be happy to present both the Provincial Disaster Management Center as a presentation, including COGTA. So I think let's allow them to present, Chair. There was work done, engagements with National is underway. One of the big problems that we need to unblock, Chair, is when National don't give funding, they would say to us, but your assessment of the damages is not in line with what we require, or the assessment by the professionals has been submitted late. Now that we are bringing in different professionals and we do an in-depth analysis, we make sure within 30 days those are done. The funding are still delayed. There was a time during early last year when we heard that the initial assessment by Merafong was not properly done. I've just put a team onto that process immediately to conduct a proper assessment. Such was done. The reports were submitted. I think a year down the line, we have not received anything. I've even asked the Disaster Management Center at National. We know the costs are huge. I'm prepared to accept a phased-in approach. so that we can deal with the major sinkholes. We had to deal with some of those ourselves. Sibanye Stillwater is now coming on board with some innovative ideas on assessments that they have done. And we hope to make some inroads in that area, Chair. But maybe Tsepo from the head of the Disaster Management Center can lead from Gauteng first. We can allow the officials from the city of Tshwane, and then we can take the discussion, Chair, if that's fine with you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask for the introduction of the Tshwane delegation, please?
Yes, I was going to say that all the officials that are speaking on the podium would like them to also introduce themselves. But yes, let's go ahead with the introduction.
Thank you very much, Chair. We are led by MMC for Shared Services, MMC Kolofelo Morodi. I am Group Head Regional Operations, which includes Roads and Stormwater. I'm joined by the Divisional Head of Roads and Transport, Lawrence Swanepoel. I'm joined by the Head of Roads and Asset Management next to me, Mr. Stephen Macheve. I'm joined by Mr. Soma Naidu, who is Director Roads and Stormwater in Region 4, which is where the sinkholes are concentrated. We have also prepared a presentation, so obviously after the Provincial Disaster Management has presented, we will be presenting our own position. Sorry, and where's the Shika? Sorry. And we also have a geotechnical engineer on our team who's specifically appointed to carry out this function, Ms. Ashika, and I've forgotten your surname. Okay, my apologies, colleagues. All right, and then we're also joined by our own disaster management deputy superintendent. And again, I've forgotten the name. My apologies, but we are fully represented, and I don't know if MMC Kolofelo would like to say a few words. Thanks.
Yes. Yes, good morning, everyone. And maybe let me start by introducing Tanya Terreblanche. She's also from the Emergency Department. And just to say to the Portfolio Committee that we are grateful for this opportunity as a city. It's something that we have been battling with as the coalition government. When we came into October, we came into 55 sinkholes. And from October till now, we are sitting at 63 sinkholes. So we have made it that this is an issue that is urgent, and we do require their assistance. I think there is a lot of gratitude on our side that this is finally it's getting attention from the province as well as national. I know that our mayor was engaging with the minister as well, so there is that interest. But for it to be discussed at that level, it does show that it is a crisis for Gauteng, and we do hope that we can take hands and at least bring some sort of relief to the residents of Centurion and Atteridgeville and Lodium as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those introductions. Who's going to make a presentation?
Okay. Okay. Greetings, Chairperson, honorable members, MMC from the city of Tshwane, and all protocol observed. My name is Tsepo Mukhali. I'm from Gauteng Cocta, under the Chief Directorate responsible for disaster management and fire services. So I will be presenting a high-level presentation on the sinkhole crisis in the city of Tshwane. And the purpose of this presentation is to also provide an enhanced understanding on the comprehensive understanding of the current situation and its impact on the communities, and also to take stock, looking at the number of sinkholes in the city of Tshwane, looking at the assessments that have been conducted and the interventions which are underway, but importantly also to cover the strategic planning aspect on how do we ensure that there's a development of a robust and sustainable action plan to address the sinkhole challenge that we are faced with. So when we look at the history and also the reports that have been generated through the Council for Geoscience, it states that approximately 25% of Gauteng province is underlain by dolomite. And the province has 3 prominent areas with sinkhole and subsidence development, which is the far west rand, the south of Tshwane, east rand, which also are amongst the areas that are highly impacted, and which have experienced approximately 1,200 instability events respectively. So when we also look at the report that has been developed by the Council for Geoscience, it also states that the city is built on a dolomitic land, and which is also exposed to severe and frequent karstic sinkholes. Dolomite rock is also, the city underlines within the area of approximately 463 square meters, which affects mainly region 3, 4, and 6. And what is also key to mention is that the areas are unstable for any type of development, not only due to dolomite nature, but by the presence of ash dump and buried land mines as well. So when we look briefly in terms of now the description of what a sinkhole is, as per the definition, a sinkhole is a sudden or slow onset collapse or opening of a ground surface, and sinkholes vary in size from 1 meter to 600 meters, both in diameter and depth, and vary from soil-lined bowls to bedrock edges. So conditions such as karstic ground, mining activities, regress of natural underground water, heavy rainfalls, and damage conduit are amongst the causes of sinkholes. So a sinkhole is categorized as a geological hazard and with catastrophic consequences, which causes major damages on infrastructure and can also cause injury or even amount to fatality in some severe cases. We'll recall that even in the report that Council for Geoscience developed also states that over the 50-year period, there has been approximately 38 fatalities as a result of sinkholes. And of this data, most of it is coming from the West Rand area. So when we look at the overall sinkhole profile and the current status, there is a total of 63 sinkholes that have been recorded. This is also according to the database. So following the rainfall experienced earlier this year around February, there was an addition to this number, which is an additional 4 sinkholes that have since developed. And based on preliminary investigations, this is also attributed to rainfall, which also have caused even the growth and the expansion of some of the sinkholes. So from what we have observed is that most of the sinkholes are within region 4, except for 2 clusters where incidents occurred only in Region 3. But the city will elaborate further when they also go into detail about the profile. So, and if we also look at the prioritization of the sinkholes, there is also a formula that is utilized to prioritize based now on the critical status of the sinkhole, whether it's posing any threats to communities, to infrastructure. So that's the criteria that is utilized to make a determination of which sinkhole belongs to a priority 1 and so forth. But when we look at the assessment which has been conducted by the city, this is the list of the critical areas that have been identified. But my colleague Ashika will then elaborate further from the city of Tshwane based on the assessment that they have already conducted. But in brief, just recently we have also witnessed a new formation which is in the Clifton Avenue in Littleton, which is in Centuria, and which also presents direct hazard to essential infrastructure, including the rainwater bulk supply pipe, which currently is a matter that requires urgent escalation because our fear from the assessments we've conducted indicate that should that supply pipeline rupture, because at this moment in time it is under pressure looking at the dimension where it is, and the matter has already been escalated to Rainwater to request for an urgent intervention, as on its own it's also posing a major threat. Should we experience any rupture, the damage is even going to cause more damage in the surrounding communities. So we also assessed the area looking at the various angles from infrastructural point of view and even from the community and residential point of view. Residents within that zone had to be evacuated as a result of this danger. But from our observation, when we also analyzed and conducted the assessment, we also established that in terms of the cost implications, there is still a major challenge in that regard. The city has already spent over 7 million on this particular project, but there is still a major shortfall. The city still requires an additional 50 million so that the rehabilitation process can then be concluded, which is the first challenge that we are presenting in regard now to this particular one in Clifton. And then when we come to the new formation which was witnessed in Littleton Manor, this occurred just recently on the 9th of May, and we then assembled a team from our side also to join the city of Tshwane to conduct an assessment and established that indeed this is catastrophic and requires urgent intervention, as there was also interruption of services in that regard. So the city also responded swiftly to ensure that services should still be provided, water and electricity in that specific area. But our observations when we assessed is that due to water pipe burst, the main feed from the Clifton Reservoir was cut off to avoid water from the reservoir flowing into the sinkhole. So this was also one of the challenges that were noted, that the infrastructure such as the pipes for water supply are old. Pipes for the sewer are also old and have aged. So this was also before the introduction of the SAN standards, which then places requirements on the type of material that must be utilized when putting infrastructure on a land that is on a dolomitic rock. So these were the findings, that some of the pipes that we utilized have rusted, some are starting to rupture, some are leaking most of the time. So that also creates an opportunity for the sinkhole to expand and even for the Dolomite Rock on its own, to also start to be in the dissolution phase, which is what the main issue is. And this is a challenge that we are confronted with in the province, where we are also starting to notice that some of the areas are being to be impacted, areas like just the West Rand, city of Ekurhuleni, city of Johannesburg, etc. But what we can also report is that the city carried out emergency repair work, which was prioritized to restore community safety and mobility. So the following are some of the sinkhole response measures implemented by the municipality and affected parties. Repairing of water leaks, temporary barricades to ensure there's traffic diversions, road and roadway closures, sewer and water pipe diversion, and sewer pipe upgrades. And these were also supported through interventions by private companies as well, who also came on board to provide the support. And the observation we can make as a COCTA, this is also based on the collective mobilization by the MEC to ensure that there's inclusion of experts from DID, which consists of engineers, quantity surveyors, to also provide further assistance with the assessments, and to also look at possible solutions on how can we then resolve on these matters. So when we assess even the situation for the complete repairs of the 63 sinkhole incidents that have been reported, we can state that looking at this from a cost analysis point of view, we're looking at between 200 to 250 million to conduct full rehabilitation interventions. And considering that any new sinkholes that may occur or further expand from the existing, the cost will also increase. We also received a virtual update, which was a virtual assessment conducted by the Department of Infrastructure Development, which is also part of the team that was then mobilized to respond to incident. And they have actually provided an evaluation of sinkhole progression and the new risks that they've identified at Highveld, John Foster, and Marquis Street. But these details actually match the details that Swan is going to present. So I wouldn't want to really go much in detail, because there is also engineering reports that Swan is going to also present. So these are the areas that we identified to be critical. So the new sinkhole, which is in Littleton, was also assessed, and the findings state that stabilizing all sinkholes within short time is a challenge due to the scale, instability, and infrastructure damage. So a detailed geotechnical survey also observed the following, that increased resources are required, and the sinkhole in Littleton Manor presents significant risks to infrastructure, safety, and private property due to dolomite geology and water leaks. So based on the investigation findings, it is recommended that the sinkhole and the subsidized area be prioritized, as they seem to be more active, and the stormwater and rainwater have increased instability as well. So this is just a brief on the impact of these sinkholes that have been identified, that indeed on infrastructure impacts, households are affected, piping, water pipe, sewer pipes are affected, electrical infrastructure is affected. But when we also look at this from a social perspective, the damage to infrastructure has also led to disruptions in essential services, and also causing more strain on the municipal resources, etc. In the discussion earlier, the HOD mentioned that the National Department of COCTA was approached. This is also to seek assistance, to request that the city of Tshwane be declared as a local state of disaster following these impacts. So the submission was then submitted to the National Disaster Management Center with the intent to request funding for assistance. This is also in line with the disaster management grant framework. So what the city, when the city submitted, the NDMC then evaluated the application, and having assessed the application, a response was then provided to the city, and the response was also shared with us. And in our view, we then identified some gaps as well that needs to be strengthened, as we also starting to experience that some of these sinkholes, even to assess, you need scientific methods to be able to apply when assessing some of these sinkholes. So which also comes with very high costs, and which the city can actually utilize those funds to rehabilitate some of the sinkholes. Just for an example, the N1 assessment costed over 33 million alone just to conduct that scientific-based assessment. So when we come to the city, where such assessments were then not conducted as a result of funding challenges, that's where now DID is coming in to provide this support from the province going forward. But when we also assess the application of what then reflects on the application that was made, it also mentions that the sinkhole has expanded or has even reached an extended period of time, seemingly due to ingress of water into the dolomitic ground formation. So this was in relation to the Clifton sinkhole. And what they also stated is that the sinkhole did not cause injury, death, but did cause damage to property, infrastructure, and the environment. The sinkhole caused the disruption of basic services, but this disruption was mitigated through installation of a bridge to support the repaired underground infrastructure. The sinkhole, however, still causes some disruption to the local residents as the road is closed, but the disruption is not significant to the community at large, as other roads and also available for use. The city of Tshwane has made some interventions and conducted investigations in line with its established sinkhole plans, policies, and procedures to restore basic services. The report further indicates that about 7 million has been spent by the city thus far, and that multi-year project costing upwards of 50 million is needed to rehabilitate the sinkhole. The report also indicates that the city does not have the 50 million available to rehabilitate the site, and therefore suggests that the city of Tshwane is not being able to cope using its own resources. So those were the details that were provided in the report. And what is also stated is that there is no detail provided in the report of whether the city of Tshwane has reprioritized or reallocated additional resources to manage the occurrence, on how budget process in the fiscal years ahead may be accessed to address rehabilitation of the site over the planned period, the planned project timeline. And the report does not indicate to what extent and other legislation, especially in the financial sector, is to be used or may be used to deal with the effects and the rehabilitation of the sinkhole. And lastly, the affected infrastructure is insured. So there is a debate when you analyze this report, that when you read the opening remarks, they state that there are no fatalities, there is no deaths, there are no injuries, and though those may be utilized as factors, but that does not really warrant that because of that we are unable to proceed with classification and later declaration. So our argument with the report also lies with that should we first have a fatality death and then later then we can be allowed to declare. So those were the debates in the engagements that we are holding this different view. Then lastly, this recommendation, this statement that the affected infrastructure is insured. So the NDMC is of the view that the city should rather utilize or maybe activate their risk intervention capacities. And this is where now the issue for the insurance also comes in. So there has been other cases where we actually made a reference where even where infrastructure is insured, but the NDMC still has a role to provide support in terms of the disaster management legislation and frameworks. But we looked at the other areas where we need to strengthen the coordination. So we have then since been engaging closely the city and also working with the project steering committee on sinkholes, which we have established in that regard so that we can expedite the interventions. But amongst the interventions that we had to ensure that we then mainstream, the MEC also then came on board to provide the direction and also to enhance even the support going forward by activating the team of experts that I made reference to. So when we visited the several areas that have been affected as part of the Gauteng provincial response to infrastructure challenges, a team of experts was then assembled consisting of the Provincial Disaster Management Center, COCTA, DID, together with GIFA, the Gauteng Infrastructure Financing Agency, to identify sustainable solutions, including rehabilitation strategies and preventative measures. So this also includes conducting geotechnical investigative analysis to look at even the underground water leakage issues, the stormwater drainage issues, and also looking at the land deformation challenges. So COCTA is also exploring other opportunities on the use of smart technology for early detection and working with the CSIR and the Council for Geoscience. What we tried to establish earlier when we're dealing with the Mirafong case was to also engage with the Council for Geoscience just to establish if there is an early warning capability measures that we can then apply. And then the council then responded by indicating that they are still working on development of such tool, but they have also agreed to utilize that as part of the pilot in Gauteng. So those are also forming part of the agreements. So we have also further engaged the NDMC, highlighting the increasing crisis of the sinkholes in the province. There is new formations even in other areas within the province, such as the West Rand, where there is new formations, and where there is also new formations in the south of Johannesburg and the eastern sides of Ekurhuleni. So indeed, this is no longer a normal incident that one can categorize under these circumstances. We had a meeting in conclusion. We had an engagement yesterday where in the project steering committee where Council for Geoscience, CSIR, municipalities are represented, where we analyzed the status in the province, and we then resolved that a consideration should be made for a provincial state of disaster. So which means that City of Tshwane should be prioritized in that classification as we engage with the NDMC, COCTA in this regard. We also need to ensure that other municipalities which were also previously affected are also included, especially in areas where there is new formations that have already been reported. But looking at this from a cost perspective, it is highly costly, highly expensive to rehabilitate a sinkhole, more especially if investigative analysis has to be done, where assessments has to be done. It is quite costly. So we need some sort of assistance through the disaster grant, which we are then preparing. We are then to also engage other structures going forward, so that we can have this open consultation going forward. But in conclusion, considering the scale and increasing magnitude of the sinkholes across the province and the limited capacity of municipalities to deal with the challenges posed by the sinkholes, COGTA through PDMC is finalizing an agent application to request for the state of provincial disaster classification to be underway in terms of Section 23 of the Disaster Management Act as amended. This will further unlock funding opportunities through the disaster grant to expedite the response and rehabilitation interventions in affected municipalities. DID will lead the process to conduct a comprehensive geotechnical investigative analysis and further outline all possible causes such as underground water leakages, poor stormwater drainage, and land deformation. The focus is on prioritizing sinkholes located in high-risk areas and which are impacting on critical infrastructure. And it is also recorded that currently it has been noted that the West Rand region, city of Tshwane, city of Ekurhuleni, and city of Johannesburg are battling with the impacts of the sinkholes. The situation is further exacerbated by unpredictable climate change hazards or conditions and with a heavy rainfall experienced during the rainy season. The PDMC is to facilitate an agent multi-stakeholder engagement with research institutions, the academia, geological bodies on finding sustainable solutions on early detection, monitoring, and response. And then lastly, COGTA will work to develop a solid business case for the submission to the NTMC and to other institutes, including GIFA, for consideration of funding possibilities. That concludes the presentation, Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We will now take the presentation from the City of Tshwane.
Okay, thank you. Good day, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to present to this forum or portfolio committee. My name is Ashika Sudu. I'm from the City of Tshwane, the Roads and Transport Department, and the section that's dealing with sinkholes, amongst other things like development on Dolomite land as well. It's called the Geological and Geotechnical Engineering Management subsection. I am the Deputy Director, and I'm an engineering geologist. Can I just apologize in advance for my voice, please? I have a bit of a cold, so if it cracks or breaks, please excuse me. Okay, then just the outline of the presentation. I'm just going to go through the sinkhole incidents in the city with some pictures of the largest sinkholes, our recent sinkholes in informal settlements, and then going through the analysis of the municipal sinkholes together then with the financial landscape and the cost estimates and challenges in dealing with the sinkholes. Okay, so the background, you've seen this plan, this map in the previous presentation. So basically, the blue area represents the Dolomitic area within the city of Tshwane jurisdiction. The Dolomite area underlies regions 3, 4, and 6, the largest area being region 4, which is the Centurion area. And it underlies approximately 463 square kilometers, which is roughly 7.3% of the citywide area. And it is only these areas that's underlain by dolomite that's prone to sinkhole and subsidence formation. So just to zoom in the region 6 area on the left, it's areas of Ritley View Country Estate and some farm portions. And in region 4, you see it's like an east-west trending belt that lies over most of Centurion, the Lodium area, as well as just a small southern area of the Attridgeville area. Okay, so the typical causes of sinkholes, the main cause in the city of Tshwane is concentrated water ingress. And in these developed areas, it's leaking wet services of water and sewer, ponding water, inadequate stormwater drainage, lowering of the groundwater table due to abstraction is quite uncommon in Tshwane because we don't have large-scale mining activities like we have in the West Rand, where most of the sinkholes are caused by the groundwater, lowering of the groundwater table, and you have these very large and very deep sinkholes. In Tshwane, luckily, we don't have that much of a problem in terms of that. In the city of Tshwane, we get a lot of reports and recording of sinkholes and going out for inspections. And the sinkhole incidents are categorized into 5 categories. The first and second categories are the sinkholes that get recorded on the municipal sinkhole priority list. And these are sinkholes that have been caused in the Dolomitic area and have been caused either by municipal services or are affecting municipal services and infrastructure, for example, the road. Where it occurs on provincial or state property, and whatever the cause is, be it the state or municipal services and municipal structures, infrastructure and services are affected, there is usually a joint responsibility or a collaboration between the municipality and the affected stakeholders. In terms of category 3, 4, and 5, when a sinkhole occurs on private property, and it is completely private related in terms of it's caused by a private service, let's say by ponding stormwater at the back of the yard, and it does not encroach on municipal services or municipal property, that is the responsibility of the private owner to actually then attend to on advice from the municipality. So we do provide some assistance in that regard. We also do get a lot of incidents that are reported as sinkholes or subsidences that are not actually a sinkhole incident, both in the Dolomite and Dolomitic area, Dolomitic area and non-Dolomitic area, and that is then referred to the relevant regions as part of the routine maintenance. Okay, a sinkhole incident response plan has been developed by the city. Stepwise, it goes through the process of reporting a site inspection to confirm it is a sinkhole or a dolomitic-related incident, site securing and diversion of affected services, determination of the primary cause, the extent, the responsibilities of between private, municipal, other stakeholders, other state entities, the division of responsibilities. That's followed then by the rehabilitation plan and funding plan, which includes the geological investigations, the repair process, ongoing stakeholder communication, construction monitoring during the repair process, eventual reopening of the facility, be it a road, be it a municipal depot or a municipal facility that has to be reopened, completion documentation, and then ongoing operation monitoring and risk assessment. So if we look at the process plan and then the institutional arrangements, it is a multi-departmental response and support within the municipality. So the Roads and Transport Department, being the subsection that I represent, the subsection is responsible for the geological assessment and the investigation of the sinkhole incidents. and provides then the geological advice in the sinkhole rehabilitation process. So it's largely geological in nature in terms of the assessment. The department, the Regional Operations and Coordination Center or Department, the ROC, as well as then the relevant regions, in most cases being Region 4, because most of the sinkholes are falling in Region 4, are responsible then for the services, diversions, site securing, maintenance of the site, and in conjunction with the section in the ROC who's responsible for the budgeting and the execution of the repair works for the prioritized sinkhole incidents. Other service owner departments respond to damages to services, diversions, and rerouting. This includes then the bulk water of the Water and Sanitation Department, movement of or relocation of mini electrical substations that will fall under the Electricity Department. So it really is quite a few departments that are involved in the sinkhole response. Okay, listing of municipal sinkhole incidents. You've heard this. Currently, we have 63 sinkhole incidents that are characterized as municipal sinkholes. As I say, it's category 1 and 2 in terms of the categorization. In the current financial year of 2024-2025, 8 new sinkholes were added to the priority list, and the latest sinkhole has actually occurred on the 9th of May 2025. The sinkhole incidents vary considerably in size and in complexity of investigations and repairs. We can have a small size sinkhole of less than 2 meters diameter or a simple depression in the ground, up to a sinkhole that's 100 meters in extent, 100 meters by 70 meters in extent. So sinkhole incidents, the sinkholes that are included on the municipal sinkhole priority list, they are defined as a sinkhole, which is a physical manifestation of a hole in the ground, a subsidence, which is a depression in the ground, as well as then dolomite-related instability, which can be ground and structure cracks, as well as scattered depressions. So and all of this has to have occurred within the dolomitic area. So incidents that are on the list may not necessarily be a physical hole in the ground. We can have a depression on the ground or cracks, let's say, on the road or sidewalk. That's classified then as a sinkhole incident. Okay, the municipal sinkhole incident priority listing, because of the unusually high numbers of sinkholes, the sinkholes are prioritized for investigations and repairs, and there are various risk and safety factors that influence the priority listing, such as the safety of persons, exposure of risk, the size and extent of damaged infrastructure, services, properties, and assets, the stability of the sinkhole, scope of repair works, the age of the feature, as well as then other consideration factors of availability of funds, as well as the capacity to attend to the sinkhole. The sinkhole priority listing by nature is a dynamic process. It requires regular updates, as the sinkholes, number one, do not remain in constant stability condition into perpetuity. After heavy rainfall events or after a rainy season, some sinkholes do actually expand with the influx of water, and then the occurrence of new sinkholes, as well as the removal of repaired sinkholes, will also influence that priority list. So that priority list is updated every time a new sinkhole occurs and is added to the list, and the list does change in terms of the number on the list of a particular sinkhole. Okay, if we have a look at the current top 10 of the 63 of the sinkhole priority listing, if you see on the left-hand side, the score of these sinkholes are actually quite high, often prioritized of 90 out of 100, and we have quite a few that fall within that category. The top 10 are actually all 90 out of 100. And if we really, I'm not going to read every single locality, but if we have to look at it, you see that a lot of the sinkholes have actually occurred in the Littleton Manor area, which is our older suburb with aged infrastructure in terms of water services as well as sewer services. And 3 of the new sinkholes that have occurred are actually on this in the top 10. So our recent sinkholes have actually been prioritized as one of the highest priorities to repair. Okay, the next slides are just a few pictures in terms of the sinkhole risk. It really is a cross-cutting corporate risk, causes damages to municipal services, infrastructure, electrical services, roads, properties being municipal as well as private. There are disruptions to services in terms of roads being closed and detours, and it does pose a risk to life. On the left-hand side, we've got a sinkhole in Burgers Street in Littleton Manor, Burgers Avenue. And as you can see, the sinkhole traverses the road, the sidewalks. It affects, in this instance, we are looking at 3 private properties that have been affected, and the road, that section of the road has been closed. On the right-hand side, we have a slightly smaller sinkhole that manifested on the road, and this picture was taken just, I would say, not within an hour that the sinkhole had occurred. And as you can see, the sudden manifestation on a road that cars are traversing really does pose a threat to the safety of the motorists as well as pedestrians. In terms of the recent sinkholes that have occurred in this financial year, the one on the top is at Langebrink and Berger Avenue, and that is the previous presenter did present the sinkhole when it originally occurred. This picture looks a little bit different, and the reason being is that the area had to be excavated with an excavator standing on the side of the road that's intact in order to expose the multitude of services that were affected by the sinkhole, as well as then to break the road surface because the sinkhole, the road was actually overhanging underneath the sinkhole, which presented quite a danger to anyone thinking that, oh, the road is still intact and you can actually traverse across. The picture on the bottom right, that sinkhole occurred on the 22nd of February, 2025, and in the Littleton Manor area as well. And as you can see, it traverses into a private property onto the sidewalk, as well as then the road is affected. The largest sinkholes, these are just 2 examples. Most of our sinkholes are actually very large. On the top left is our famous or infamous Clifton Avenue sinkhole. That's 100 meters from east to west and 70 meters from north to south. And if you actually can see, we've got the 2 sections of the Rand water pipe that is exposed, as well as then the Eskom overhead sort of pole can be seen, and that Eskom overhead line services the PRASA, the PRASA network that's in the affected area. 2 properties had to be evacuated on an almost immediate basis when the sinkhole had occurred. So currently in the city of Swane, that is one of the largest, it is the largest and most complex sinkhole in terms of the multitude of services and infrastructure that's affected. We do have the hospice site that's on the left-hand side, and just further south of this is the Unitas hospital as well. So it is on a direct ambulance route as well. At the bottom right is a sinkhole that happened in Claudius. That's still growing as we speak. It's quite a dangerous sinkhole, quite deep at over 15 meters deep, with very, very well-formed tunnels at the base. We just can't get close enough to take a decent picture because, as you can see, there's ground cracks surrounding that sinkhole. So that sinkhole is quite unstable at the moment and will likely grow. Sinkholes in informal settlement, I just use the example here of Itereleng, which is in Region 4 in an informal settlement where we do get sinkholes that are occurring, scattered sinkholes throughout the informal. So these are not just at these locations. And you can see that we do have quite a few structures affected, and it is quite unsafe. These sinkholes in particular are quite well formed and quite deep because of the particular formation of dolomite that is in that area. Often in the informal settlements, we have the long drop system or what do you call it, pit latrines, and that is your sort of main cause of sinkholes in the informal settlement, as well as then uncontrolled stormwater with the developments as they happen, that occurs. Okay, subsidences, just to give you an example of subsidences that also make it onto the municipal sinkhole priority list. These are just two examples, one in Erasmia and one in the Cornwall Hill estate in the Irene area, that may not necessarily look like much, but when you do inspect, when you do the assessment, when you find those circular sort of ground cracks or semicircular ground cracks and sort of little scattered depressions that extend from the private property into the road as a result, let's say, of a leaking municipal service or leaking irrigation pipe, that is a dolomite instability feature that has to be investigated and repaired in the same manner as a physical hole in the ground. Other examples of ground cracks, on the top picture on the left-hand side, this is in Valhalla in Snake Valley Road. These are just ground cracks with a little bit of hammocking, if I can use that word, off the road. So it's not an actual circular subsidence. There's different layers or different levels of the road. And these ground cracks, this is a dolomite instability feature as well. And at one of the municipal installations of the Lodium electrical substation, the structure has been cracking quite badly, and that is related to foundation settlement caused by movement of the ground, caused by a dolomite instability event that's happening. Just in terms of when an instability event happens, did I lose some slides here? Sorry. What happens is that the ground, because the dolomite has natural cavities in it, and the material above the rock, when you have like a water leak or concentrated water ingress, be it by water leak, sewer leak, or concentrated water ingress by ponding stormwater, that material gets mobilized, like we have with the clays, with the collapsible soils. But because there's a conduit in the dolomite rock has natural cavities in it, that material has a path to actually then go and settle into that rock, and then it progresses upwards until eventually it reaches an overarching layer, which then fails and then causes a sinkhole. So what happens with these ground cracks here, it's actually a sinkhole in a first stage where the ground has settled but hasn't yet caused that physical hole in the ground or the depression in the ground. So it's sort of like retarded by, let's say, the geology, the soil layers on top. Okay, just an analysis of the municipal sinkhole incidents. I'll just go through the distribution per ward, the causes, and the site characterization in terms of the sizes of the sinkholes. Distribution of municipal sinkhole incidents per ward. As we can see, Ward 61 and Ward 57 has the largest numbers of sinkholes. Ward 57 is largely the, I'm so sorry, is largely the Littleton Manor area. Ward 61 is the Lodium, Erasmia, Claudius, and Christoburg area. And this is followed closely by Ward 79, which represents then the Irene, an extension of Littleton Manor, the Irene Cornwall Hill area as well. Causes of municipal, I'm so sorry, yes.
I suggest, I'm looking at the time now, I suggest maybe you move to the cost estimates and the slides after that.
Thank you. Okay. I just want to say one thing about the causes. Number one cause are leaking water pipes in the city of Tshwane, and these are due to aged water pipes. 59% of our sinkholes are caused by that.
Because I know some of the, Nico,
I don't know what's wrong with my phone.
part of, a big chunk of them have fallen also on provincial roads or national owned property. Are you able to then say how much of that is in that particular space? Because it also then retards or has an impact on your response time, because you also have to then get permission to do certain things on those pieces of ground or roads, like what you had on the, what is it, the R55, I think. The R55 next to Lodium, we had to wait, 6 months to really get something done there.
Yes, in terms of the provincial and other stakeholder sinkholes, we've had a few in the city. Those causes were mostly stormwater related, concentrated stormwater ingress. For example, the one, if I may go, there is a slide. In terms of, this is a slide. So far we haven't had much involvement with the provincial sinkholes that have occurred. The one on the R55, there was a delay in terms of the fixing of that, but that was mainly concentrated stormwater ingress. The other sinkholes that we've had recently within the city was on Vieda Road, near the interchange with the N14, and it was within a Gautrain reserve as well on public works property. So it was a whole involvement, a mashup of involvement. That was done by Gauteng Province of Department of Roads and Transport. There was a small sinkhole, a medium sinkhole on the main road in Irene. That cause was not really known. We couldn't, from the city side as well as from province side, it was one of those unknown what had caused the sinkhole that was also then repaired under the Gauteng province. On the national road, we know about the N1, the sinkhole on the N1. That did cost a lot of money, both in terms of the assessment as well as the repairs, and that was completed by Sandra. And the other one that we are aware of on the road to the airport, that is outside of the Swane area. Okay, in terms of the financial landscape, there's a lot of considerations that goes into the sinkhole incidents, including the site securing, services diversions, the geological investigations, the repairs, as well as then the services reinstatement. So it is all of those that needs to be costed, as well as then what's very important is the in-repair surprises, which is what we have come across in the rehabilitation of sinkholes, where you do the geological investigations, you have a repair method, and then you start excavating, and unfortunately you may uncover a tunnel or a cavity that the geological investigation may not necessarily have picked up, and you've got to then increase the scope of the repair work as well. So the cost estimates that we have are really just basic cost estimates and based on historical expenditure and on the current 63 sinkholes. I think in terms of the presentation before us, it was still on the 59 sinkholes or the 55 sinkholes that we've had previously, and now we've got the additional 8. Geological investigations usually determine the full extent as well as then the repair method. However, conducting geological investigations as well is a tricky thing, because ideally investigations need to be conducted when you are ready to repair the site and not years before a site can be repaired, because the sites do deteriorate over time. And we have had cases where investigations had to be redone at the time when the repairs, when the site was earmarked, the sinkhole was earmarked for repairs. So the cost estimates based on the size and the complexity of the sinkhole. And when we go to the next slide, it really is a range of estimated costs, because it can vary considerably, also based on the ground conditions once exposed. Then we do have sinkhole anomalies that are extremely large and complex in extent that will require extraordinary funding. So it's beyond what one would really estimate for a sinkhole event. So if we have to look at the cost estimates based on the current list of the 63 sinkholes, it's classified into the ranges as defined in the standards, from small, medium, large to very large, and the numbers, and based then on, as I say, historical expenditure, repair methods that we know that need to be implemented for sites that have been geologically investigated. There are 21 sites out of the 63 that do have a repair method that has already been determined. We're looking at in terms of that sizes, that's 59 sinkholes there, with a range of 350 up to a total upper limit of 746. And why the range is, again, as I say, when you start with the repair method, we often find that the geology is quite complex in certain areas due to the specific geological formation. And if you excavate and you uncover a tunnel or a cavity, because we are rehabilitating in a developed area where roads are going to be rebuilt, services reinstated, houses potentially going to be rebuilt in that area, you can't ignore the fact that there are poor conditions around this excavation that you've determined. And that needs addressing as well in order to render that area safe and to prevent any recurrences, let's say, of a sinkhole occurring right next to the area that you've rehabilitated. In terms of the anomalies, as you've heard previously, Clifton Avenue, upwards of 50 million. The cost can likely be much more because in the private property area on the eastern side, just with the direct effect of the rainfall, the sinkhole is actually getting quite deeper. It is in excess of 22 meters deep inside the properties and surrounded by very loose material. So that will require quite an expensive and deep sort of repair method involving a lot of material. The sinkholes in the informal settlements, I just need to mention this. We've got sinkholes in Itereleng, we saw pictures, in the Pomalong area as well as in the Jeffsville area. And the sinkholes are scattered throughout the settlements, and they are quite dangerous and large sinkholes that's affecting numerous people. People had to be relocated through our housing department in the past. And those areas are not suitable for that type of development. The area actually needs to be, the people need to be relocated. It involves mass relocation, and it requires repair over a large area, not just spot repairs, and then site sterilization of that area. And that can likely be in excess of 100 million in terms of those three events. Okay, and then just, I think this is the last slide. The challenges, we have numerous sinkholes. It's growing annually, every rainy season, and every year we are getting sinkholes that are very large in extent and very complex. That's costing, that potentially can cost over 25 million each to fix. Causes are aged water and sanitation services. And from a risk management perspective, the upgrade and the replacement of these old wet services to a dolomitic material specification, as well as this coupled by a rapid response to reported leaks, will likely reduce the occurrences of the sinkholes. Other challenges are availability and capacity of contractors. These are specialized works, from the geological investigations to the implementation of the repair method, and there are challenges in attracting the right sort of expertise or experience. And then the budget per year and over the medium-term revenue and expenditure framework, as well as coupled with funding for the very large sinkhole anomalies. That's it. The Clifton Avenue sinkhole assessment was spoken about before. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentations. Members, I'm going to allow questions. Also note that we can also ask questions as we go on the oversight visit as well. But I'll allow Member Dilebo. All right, Member Diacher and Member Simang, Member Mache.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, the department and City of Tshwane, for your reports. Chair, I'd like to comment on a few issues here. The department is saying they need over 300 million to fix the sinkholes. But now, I'm very much concerned that because if we we did not involve the residents of Centurion, because we all know that Centurion is a dolomitic area for the longest time in memorial. So if we check on the geoscience report, the report says there's a total of 112 sinkholes that have been reported since 1970s until 2012. And this database, the report says the database has been intentionally hidden from the community, meaning that there's a reason for that. One of the reasons, the major reason, is that they don't want communities or residents to know and to understand that this might affect the price of their properties, which will subsequently impact negatively on the municipal collection of revenue in terms of rates and taxes. So, Chair, if we don't involve the affected residents of Centurion and we don't educate them how is these sinkholes, how these sinkholes are formed, we'll continuously have this problem, because we'll be sitting here again after these sinkholes are fixed, discussing again another 300 million. Why I'm saying this is because the primary factor on this issue is that sinkholes are formed particularly in Centurion because dolomite is very soluble in water. So if we don't educate them, the residents, because you'll find in the household, maybe driveways, there's maybe gaps in their paving. And then if they don't know how to control or manage the ground level, the groundwater level, we'll always have a problem in terms of they don't know how to do it, they can't report it because they don't have information on that. So we need to educate the residents because they're the ones who are affected. Maybe if we can have possibly public participation whereby all affected residents can come and get educated in this thing, because I think they spoke about the water pond. For instance, what I know in R55, I think it's the intersection of R55 and N14. There was water pond in there for a very long time. And the management of water is a serious problem. This is what is causing the sinkholes. So my suggestion is that let's educate, let's involve the residents so that they know what to do and how to prevent for future sinkholes not to happen. Thank you, Chair.
So thank you very much. Part of the challenge that is there, and I think the geological reports will indicate that things like, as you said, old pipes that are not replaced become a big challenge. And I know that this is actually more complicated because as much as you have old pipes, you also have a lot of trees that are growing into these pipes. So this thing is multifaceted. Perhaps what I want to then ask is what is then being done in terms of your pipe replacement? Because your pipe replacement will also then talk to the issue of, in certain instances, ensuring that you're able to then deal with the issues of roots that are going and digging into these pipes and maybe doing the replacement. But also, I think there is an element where residents as well, and I agree with what a member was saying, that we need to be educating residents. There's still people who are sinking illegal boreholes in Centurion. That is a problem. And what are we doing to inform people of the dangers of doing that? But what are we doing in terms of bylaw enforcement, where you need to then ensure that people don't sink in illegal boreholes where people are sinking illegal boreholes. So yeah, those are the two questions that I would have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought Member Diakha was next. No. Oh, all right. So, Member Masoleng, are you all right? Are you okay? All right, Member Macheni.
Thank you very much, Chair. And we do welcome the presentation. Just have a few questions and, yeah, just a few comments. Noting that the presentation is mainly about City of Tshwane, but I just wanted to find out from the department that is Merafong going to be prioritized also, bearing in mind that there's a primary school in Merafong with sinkhole, and it's been long and close to nothing has been done. And then also the presentation spoke about Far West Rand Dolomitic. Mostly we do have that in Fairness Post in the Rand West municipality. Is there a geotech report that confirmed that the area is dolomitic? And if yes, then why is Far West Rand Dolomite under Vimpi and Amanda still selling houses in a dolomitic area in Fairness Post? Also, if the province became aware of possible sinkholes in, let's say, from 1970 to 2019, it means that the province didn't maintain. There's no maintenance at all. We actually wait for a crisis to occur, then we have to spend millions to rehabilitate the sinkholes. And there were no preventative measures from 2019 to date of these sinkholes. And then in the conclusion of, Deputy, the guy, not the female. Yeah. Conclusion in your they said currently there's been noted that West Rand, Tshwane, Kuruleni, and COJ are battling with the impact of sinkholes. So they are only noting West Rand. I'll speak of West Rand because I'm from there. And the sinkholes starting, they've been there ever since, yeah. So is also West Rand going to be declared a disaster? And is West Rand going to get the same attention? And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, members. I'm going to allow the department and the City of Tshwane to also respond to the questions.
Okay, Chair, thank you very much. Most of the comments is comments and inputs. We do take note of that, as indicated by the different honorable members. Chair, Merafong is a priority. We are not mentioning Merafong because that has already been a priority. There has been some funds allocated from COCTA for that, for some studies, and the biggest portion of the funds is waiting for approval from National. But that is a priority. I think with the disaster management that we have established there, all the provincial departments are coming on board to assist. There was damages to various parts of the road that we have looked at. The conditional assessment of the school has been finalized, and we are going actually this coming Monday to go and do some inspections on some of the work that has been done. But yes, the municipality have done very little. They have looked at alternative sources of funding for that as well, Chair, but they have not done much. Chair, the issue of preventative maintenance vis-a-vis maintenance and no maintenance. Let's say that maintenance was done. I don't think it reached the required percentage of your budget that you should earmark for maintenance. And with aging infrastructure, your maintenance does not keep up with the rate at which your aging infrastructure are aging. So there has been poor maintenance, but there is a process underway now where municipalities need to report to us on the percentage of funding that is allocated for maintenance so that we can start getting to a stage where we try and fix the backlogs with proper capacity, but then also do some preventative maintenance. But we can confirm as the department that the municipalities have focused on maintenance, but the proportion of money for maintenance has not been what we want to require, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I think in terms of the questions, let me respond to what I can respond on, and I'll refer to my colleagues as well. In terms of the first question about the involvement of residents, I think with the numbers of sinkholes and properties and people that have been affected and inconvenienced, the issue of sinkholes are very well marketed, or people are made aware, residents, of sinkholes and the dangers and what to look out for. From the municipal side, from the subsection side, we take every opportunity to educate the residents through the public meetings, ward committee meetings, where we focus on what specific sinkholes, what has caused them, what are the warning signs, etc. And that is for existing development as well, through the land development application process. When building plans come in, the geology subsection then does ask for certain requirements, such as a dolomite risk management plan for certain types of development, which is actually a monitoring and a maintenance plan, looking at all the triggering mechanisms of sinkhole formation, of leaking water, leaking sewer, ponding stormwater, that must be monitored and maintained on a regular basis. In terms of new developments on dolomite, we know that Centurion is continuously being redeveloped and infill development. There are very stringent dolomitic measures in place that is managed by my subsection in terms of detailed investigations, certain types of foundation designs and wet services that must be implemented for the development, together with a dolomite risk management plan, and then insurance for that development that has to be proven. So in terms of those measures, there have been awareness, let's say, a lot of awareness has been created on the part of residents on sinkholes and how to prevent or what to look out for within the private properties. But obviously that can always be further developed, and perhaps brochures and things as well be sent out as well, and other platforms as the Honourable Member has indicated. I just want to make one comment before I refer to my colleagues on the pipe replacements and stuff. The problem with Littleton, with the older suburbs, is that is very true. We've got aged infrastructure that's beyond the shelf life. We have asbestos cement water pipes, in particular, that are not suitable for the dolomitic areas. And the fact that it's there, it happened, or those pipes were installed before the dolomite standards were in place. And now the dolomite standards actually then prescribe an HDPE pipe, which is a high-density polyethylene pipe with butt-welded joints that theoretically should not leak in a lifetime and should not have roots influencing those pipes. That pipe is quite expensive to install, and you need, you need special certification of the plumbers that's installing it, specifically for the butt welding of the joints, which is like a specialized sort of activity. I do know that there are pipe replacement programs that have been implemented in the city in certain suburbs, but yeah, maybe my colleagues can help me out here in terms of what the programs are going forward. The illegal water boreholes is a serious problem, especially in light of the challenges that we are having with water supply at the moment. There is an application process and a contravention process that is in place. And we also then do rely heavily on the residents to report when there's illegal activity taking place, for example, in the neighboring properties. And we have actually had a good response from the residents, and we try to act quickly in terms of the response from Metro Police to actually go out. But it is becoming an escalating problem, if I might put it like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other responses from colleagues from? Yes, yes. Please go ahead. Sorry, we need to give you a mic.
Thank you, Chairperson. The historic underinvestment by Tshwane is well known. Our current or our financial capital budget for this year was 2.4 billion. For the next financial year, it's 2.6 billion. There has been historic underinvestment in pipe replacement, as well as not just replacement, but also renewal and new investment in particularly water and sanitation. If the committee is not aware, the city has embarked on the trading services process, Chairperson, which will see the establishment of a water and sanitation business unit, ring-fenced, as per the instruction from National Treasury. As part of that commitment, National Treasury is committed to, should Tshwane achieve the necessary milestones, that there will be additional funding forthcoming that is required to be invested into infrastructure, as well as any ancillary activities related to water and sanitation. That process is expected to commence 1st of July of this year. All of the necessary administrative actions have been taken to give substance to this instruction, and the new Chief of Water will be appointed in due course during the course of the next 12 months. Their responsibility is, among others, to deal with historic underinvestment, and then also a significant instruction from National Treasury and Water and Sanitation is going to be to deal with illegal connections and the reduction of water losses, all of which are some of these side aspects that cause the sinkholes today. That is the next 12 to 24 months. The city would not be remiss in a special grant allocation from the Minister's funds. The MEC for Finance has got discretionary capacity to create a municipal infrastructure support grant. We would be remiss if we don't make a special plea through the HOD to intervene on our behalf for any kind of support. The disaster management application, as you know, or the local disaster management application, as you know, did not meet all of the criteria by national to warrant the classification of the sinkhole issue, and consequently that channel of relief funding is not available to us. Thank you, Chair. I don't know if any of my colleagues would like to add anything. No? All right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm going to allow Member Masoling to have a follow-up.
Thank you very much, Chair. That seemed to be a very good report, Chair. Can we have it in writing so that we are also able to do follow-ups and conduct our oversight accordingly? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll ensure that we follow up. I want to thank the department and the City of Tshwane for all the presentations and the deliberations that we had, members. We've actually come to the end of the first session. We are running out of time. We're supposed to go to have lunch at 12 o'clock, and the restaurant is closing at 2. So I am going to allow all the officials from department and City of Tshwane to go for lunch. You will be led by Mentombi. and we will leave at 2 o'clock for the oversight. As the committee will continue just to conclude on the business of the day for 15 minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, members. We are going to move as we had agreed. The next item on the agenda, which is number 4, adoption of the minutes dated the 29th of May 2025. I'm requesting the presenter not to read, just to take us through page 1, page 2, whatever, because we've already read. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members, once more. And